welcome back to the Cinema Condition with your host, filmmaker, and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network, Raul Alejandro Mendoza. And as always, we are here for another movie and another guest to discuss said movie. Last week, we had the wonderful Charlie Jones to discuss Underground 1995 from Emir, Costa Rica, an incredible Serbian film that I'm really, really, really happy I had the chance to watch. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that episode. But this week we have ourselves a new guest, and I am really, really excited because 2 weeks ago we had Robert Butler III. For the second time I was able to have an episode with RB3 because I did a interview. I interviewed him for the Impaired Files before. But now we have from First Cut, one of the co-hosts of the Meaning Up podcast, and also a writer and fellow cinephile. We have ourselves Sabrina Ramirez. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk about my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, yes. So Sabrina chose Michael Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I know I said last week when we were ending the episode, I said, if everything goes well, we are going to have Sabrina on to discuss Charlie Kaufman's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I was like, why did I get that mixed up? Charlie Kaufman is the screenwriter, not the director. Equally as important, yes, but
Definitely.
I said, wait, why did I say Charlie Kaufman? It's not Kaufman, it's freaking Gondry.
Honestly, both of those names should be in the mix when you're talking about Eternal Sunshine. They both have such a substantial amount added to this film, so I get it.
Yeah. Oh man, this is I'm really excited to have you on. Like I said, I was really happy that you agreed to come on.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what did I tell you during the messages? I said even if today couldn't happen, this movie was gonna be yours. Like it's reserved only for you. I have a couple of movies like that I picked in advance for people, and I said, okay, this for sure is this person's movie. Like no other person is gonna get to claim that movie but them. So, you know, because my co-host loves Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind when I showed it to him, he probably would have wanted to do this one too from the other shows I do. And I was like, nah, man, I'm sorry. No, like even if you would have asked, I would have said, this is Sabrina's movie. There's nobody else gets to choose this movie but her.
That means the world, honestly.
Yeah. It's just, I'm really happy that you're on here. Of course, I mean, I tell you guys all the time, I love the Meaning Up podcast. I love First Cut. I love what you guys do. You guys are incredible people, and I've been supporting the RB3 and Andres for so long, and then when you came into the mix, it was a really nice breath of fresh air. You know, there was a lot of cool stuff that came into the mix with you, and having a third person on that show brings in a really cool amount of opinions on film. So I was gonna say
it's been really, really fun. I mean, like I'm a fan of both of them as well, and RB3 asking me to come on, like it meant the world because him and I would just, you have an incredibly intelligent man to have a conversation with at all. Like he's so passionate, loves filmmaking and everything. So him and I would grab coffee, we'd grab a drink, we'd do that, and we would just like yell at each other about movies all the time. So the fact that he thought I was good enough to be asked to come on First Cut with them, it was a huge deal for me.
Yeah, no, and I've said it before, RB3 makes me blush because he always says, I might be even smarter than him and Andres about movies. And I'm like, dude, no, hold on, stop right there. I'm just a guy that has literally nothing to do with his life but watch a shit ton of movies and literally just discuss them with anybody who walks and breathes on this earth. That's just...
Well, I mean, that's the best, like the biggest, most important thing. Like people who just immerse themselves into film, into the art of filmmaking, into all of that, they have the most to say, they have the most passion. So it clearly shows with you.
Yeah. You're going to start making me blush too, so calm down. But so what's it called? Sabrina, anything you want to tell, we've already kind of introduced you, but anything else you want to bring up that you do? I know you do cocktails and casting with Ben Goddard and all those other stuff that you do.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, the past 8 months have been crazy. That's when I started at First Cut. So I've been doing that, again, Geeks of Color, cocktails and casting with Ben Goddard every Monday on his channel. And then also once everything is safe again, I'll be back on SEN in studio. Awesome. So that's always exciting on Thursdays. So yeah, that's basically it. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Sabrina X Monica. I'm just constantly posting a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just I'm in that boat too. So I'm one of the the firm believers. I despise social media with
Me
a
too.
passion, but I have to be on there.
Yep.
The career choice that I made has me needing to be on social media, and Instagram is the only place I can actually share my photography and all that stuff that I do. So it's like, yeah, I'm always constantly watching the feed, and you're always popping up, and it's a lot of fun. But I will say the most fun that Sabrina that you can catch around that isn't the Meeting Up podcast. It's her Twitter, because Jesus Christ, the stuff that Sabrina
I
posts
know.
makes me laugh. So this whole time, I'm so sorry, Sabrina, and I know we're kind of delaying talking about the
Oh,
movie,
no, it's all good.
but I've been dying to talk to you for a really long time, because throughout this whole movie, I couldn't stop thinking of Kaiser from that video saying,
Yeah.
"Homie, I love Eternal Sunshine. I'll watch that shit tonight."
Oh my God, on the backstory of that really quick.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of the people in the community in the space have been doing fundraising streams.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend Brandon Hanna, he was like, hey, would you like to be, he's like, I'm gonna have kind of rotating guests for like about 2 hours, and we'll kind of see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
And we got on. I don't know if you know this or if anybody knows this, because the video's gone, because he wanted it to be like a one-time thing. We were on for 10 hours. We were, the amount of things we talked about, I can't even believe Video Drew got that screen recording of Kaiser. And it's just the funniest thing, because all the conversations we had with like rotating Schmodown people and all the things like that. But yeah, it was so funny, because I was telling him about my Eternal Sunshine tattoo that I got probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was telling him about it. He's like, I'll watch that shit tonight.
And it's like, those are the things that it's like, they shouldn't be funny, but good Lord, does it make you crack up so hard. So the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm just hearing it in the back, in that voice, that literal voice, "Homie, I love Eternal Sunshine. I'll watch that shit tonight." It was like, I was
Oh my
dying.
God.
And I'm apologizing in advance. I have a very obnoxious laugh. It's kind of like, what's it called, RB3s, but it's kind of worse. But it's just when I just kept hearing that in the back of my head, and I'm just dying of laughter watching this movie. I'm like, I should be crying. Well, of course I was crying, but I was like, I shouldn't be crying and laughing at the same time, because I'm hearing Kaiser in the back saying that.
Yeah, he changed my outlook on that film for sure.
Oh my God. But yes, so Sabrina chose Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and we've actually never discussed Michael Gondry's work here, because nobody has chosen Michael Gondry before. So we got to do the thing that we always do. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys to the filmmaker known as Michael Gondry. Michael Gondry was born on May 8th, 1963. He's, of course, a French filmmaker, a director and screenwriter. He was a music video director before, actually making films. He has worked with the White Stripes, Bjork, and other artists. He won an Academy Award for as one of the writers for this movie, of course. His style is very, very defined by surrealism, especially in science fiction. A lot of the images in this movie are literally David Lynch type of images. And his films are very focused on emotion, and his inspirations, and I'm going to try to pronounce this, his inspiration came from Le Voyage Balloon, or Stowaway in the Sky. It's an old French family adventure film. And his first movie was Human Nature in 2001, and his latest was Microbes and Gasoline in 2015. So that is the filmmaker Michael Gondry. And so Sabrina, obviously, you didn't pick the movie. I picked it for you. But why did you want to discuss this movie?
This movie is something that I think is so incredibly special. I have seen it probably upwards of like 70 times in my life. I watched it for the first time when I was about like 10 or 11. And obviously, when you're really young, you can't fully grasp it, but it was mesmerizing. I didn't fully understand every single thing yet, all the different special aspects of it, but I was just completely mesmerized by the narrative structure and just the story and all the cinematography and all the camera work. And like, I remember seeing the Meet Me in Montauk scene when I was young, and I was just like, wow. Like, I was like, this is the most stunning thing that I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's still stuck with me. I mean, as I said, I have Eternal Sunshine tattooed on my thigh. I think this film is just a beautiful reflection of life and love and kind of all the beautiful parts. You know, you can never have anything that's great without also having something. Like, there's going to be bad moments and there's going to be bad parts, but that doesn't mean you need to throw it away altogether. And I love the way it deals with memory. Obviously, that's literally like the entire focus of the film. And it's just like, if you got rid of this thing that hurts because you feel like you'll be better without it, it's like your judgment's clouded. Like, you actually won't, because everything happens for a reason, and life is this beautiful, painful process, and it's also really great. So it's something, that's the reason I got the tattoo on my thigh, was because it's kind of a reminder to myself where you won't ever have the good without some of the bad. So you should never shy away from anything. You should never stop yourself from doing anything. And I really owe a lot of that mindset to this movie.
So I first watched this film. So I don't really discuss this a lot. You know, I discussed it on the main show. I haven't really brought it up on the Cinema Condition. But between 2014 and 2015, when I went to my first college, in my first year of college, of course, followed by many depressive episodes and understanding the mental illness that subsides in my brain. There was a moment where I was not studying film, and I was actually an engineer, and I've talked about this with RB3 before. And so once I gave up engineering and I went completely into film, there was a huge chunk of 2015 to 2016 that I spent watching movies and kind of just immersing myself and trying to study the film, because a lot of you who are out there who are filmmakers and are listening to this because you are working in film to an extent, some of the best way that you can understand the language of cinema, it is to watch as much movies and also read books on cinema. And I did a lot of reading and a lot of watching. And I got across to this movie because a lot of people were recommending it to me. They're like, oh, you should watch Eternal Sunshine. First of all, I don't know how, supportive it was to recommend me this movie during probably one of the darkest times of my life.
Yeah.
But, it's fine. And now I do my good old depressive double feature, this and Her, back to back.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
100%.
I have my depression double feature, and I also have my anxiety double feature. My anxiety double feature is Good Time and Uncut Gems back to back.
No.
Yeah.
Are you? Why are we the same person right now?
Yeah, it's just if I want to feel something, Some people, what's it called? Some people smoke a cigarette to let the edge, to cut some edge, let some edge off, take a drink. I put two of the most depressing movies I've ever seen back to back in the same day. But I watched this movie. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Continue. I'll talk.
Yeah. So I watched this movie, and of course, nothing will ever go back to the first time I watched this movie. I remember I was in my college dorm. My roommate wasn't back yet, and I watched this movie, and my eyes were bawling. And but there was something really special about this movie because it never ever left my head. Weeks went by, and I was, of course, watching more movies, but this just never left my mind. And I remember because it was on Netflix, and I watched it that night, and it just stayed in there. And I remember just wanting to, to speak about it with somebody, but everybody, beside me that was in my dorm or my classes were not into movies as much as I was. And, I would speak it with like friends from back home, but of course they watched it as just a really beautiful story about love. But there was stuff in there that was just like so mesmerizing to me about this movie. And I rewatched it 4 more times after. This being my 5th time. I showed this movie to my, actually this might be the sixth, hold on, because I showed it to my little brother, who was like, I think 16 or 17 at the time, and he loved it. And then I showed it to my cousin, my little cousin, who was probably 16 or 17 as well at the time, before she ever graduated high school. And she had, she was getting into movies too, and she loved it. She was like, wow, I can't believe I watched that. That was just amazing. And then I watched it for the podcast, and then I watched it for this podcast now. So
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is it's very special, like you say, and like I kind of bring up the fact that this show that we're doing here really isn't a review show. It's more about the themes and stuff. But I like to break the rules with movies that are really special, and this one is one of those movies. It is an incredibly sensual and very beautiful moving story about relationships, and there's a really nice what's it called talk about desire in this movie too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's so much to celebrate about this movie. I feel like if anybody's listening and they haven't seen it yet, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Because just for an example, along with everything that you said before, yes, this movie is so deeply emotionally rich. There is no doubt about that. But it also just has this thing about it that also feels comforting in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like my comfort movie, even though it's so depressing, which doesn't make sense because yes, it's making me upset, but it's also comforting me. And that really is just a credit to Kaufman and Gondry because they're able to balance this out where you feel so much. I've talked about my roommates a lot on The Meaning of and other places. And I showed my roommate Eliza this film just a few weeks ago for the first time ever. She was sobbing. And it's me and her chilling. We're not even going through anything. It can bring out so many different emotions out of you. And that is a testament to great art. I feel like no matter what emotion it is, if you're feeling something that is so overwhelming that you're physically showing it, that is just a testament to great art.
Yeah. And I got to bring this up because, a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure you get the same reaction when you tell them like, oh, this is my favorite movie and I watch this constantly. They're like, how can you watch it? It's so depressing. To me, movies like this, movies like Her, and a lot of other films that are as depressing as this, they're very cathartic to me. I think that there is something special when a film reminds you that there's a lot of people out there that feel the way you feel. And that person carefully crafted such a meticulously beautiful film and an art that it's very comforting. And yes, I know the whole time it is very depressing. I've watched 3-hour movies that are incredibly depressing, but throughout most of it, it didn't make me more depressed. If anything, it made me feel more connected.
100%. And I know you talked about prior in this episode, you've talked about like mental health struggles. And I feel like we as humans can find solace in so much because I also struggle with my mental health, and we find solace in books and art and movies and people and just like all different aspects of life. Whatever it is that you love, that's where you can find solace. And we, like, people like you and I find it in a story like this because as we've said, it's comforting. It feels like a hug. Even with how sad it is, I feel so immersed and so wrapped up in this like emotion that I've talked about before on the Meaning of podcast and a few other places. I've talked about how I'm kind of like, because I'm a writer, I definitely see myself as like kind of a masochist. I don't know what it is, but a lot of the music I listen to like a ton of genres and everything, but a bulk of what I listen to most of the time, it doesn't matter what my emotion is very somber singer-songwriter, very light. I listen to Sufjan Stevens, Keaton Henson, Julian Baker.
Well, yeah, I know you and I are big fans of Turnover, especially Peripheral Vision. Yes. That album is, what did I say? I remember what I said. I said, oh, all these 4 albums hit really different during the depressive episode. And you're like, definitely in them. Yeah, because Peripheral Vision is just, all of 2015 and 16 was spent listening to that album. And it was cathartic.
It really is. I find a lot of that catharsis in everything like that. So for somebody who for anybody out there who feels a certain way, I would recommend, even if you've watched this before and it maybe didn't hit at that time, maybe give it another rewatch, because it is really, really, truly something special. For us to be talking about it, I mean, 16 years later,
Yeah.
like it's in so many conversations that I have. Clearly, everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who's watched anything I've ever done knows that I've talked about it so much. It became a thing on SEN. And yeah, it's 16 years later. My favorite movie going experience ever was watching it at the Rooftop Cinema Club in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched it, I think almost 2 years ago, actually, on the rooftop in the middle of the city. And it's just on like a projection on the side of a building. And you would just wear headphones. You have like little comfy chairs and blankets and popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my favorite movie going experience of my entire life.
Yeah, we have one of those here in Houston, and I've been wanting to do one of those, but the good old Corona,
Yeah.
good old Rona messed that up. I remember they were showing Selena there for a while, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go watch Selena," just lay down and watch it. But no, that doesn't happen. But that didn't happen. But yeah, I mean, it's 100% true what you're saying, and I agree with you, and I think that is what makes art like this very special. It's just the way that some of us who deal with external issues are able to kind of confide in this. And so if you're like me, my friends, and you're bipolar and you love depressive movies because they actually do bring a smile to your face, then you're not abnormal or anything. You're just like me, and we're gonna be okay. All right. So there's nothing like, so they can keep judging and say, Raul, when are you gonna watch comedies? Well, I'll watch comedies when I'm dead. Okay. Because, I'm going to keep wanting to cry, all right? I want to keep crying.
Masochist forever.
Exactly. But, yeah, so I want to, we can run through some stuff, start actually the conversation on the film.
Yeah.
So for those of you who may not know Eternal Sunshine and you're just listening because you like to support the show, and I love you very much for that, so I send my hug and my kiss for that. Eternal Sunshine is about Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet's characters who, they meet, they fall in love, and then the inevitable heartbreak comes to shove them out. And Kate Winslet's character, Clementine, decides to erase Jim Carrey's character, Joel, from her memory, which leads to Joel wanting to erase her from his memory. And the events that happen after, and they discuss a relationship that falls apart, and many relationships that are, happening in the background of this movie. And I guess I want to start with the whole relationship aspect of this, because there is I break it up into certain parts in this, and I have to go back to my Letterboxd review that I did of this, because it's probably the most perfect way I can describe the different relationships in this movie. So you have 3 different types of love, and there are a lot of types of love in the world, and a lot of movies like Your Name, they discuss these different types of love, and I wanted to bring up some of the ones that I think that you find in here. Let me just, I try to stall so I can type my words in here so I can find my review, but then it just doesn't come up. But here we go. So there's 3 different types of love in this film. There's the love. There's the love that you want so bad, but it can't be done. It can never happen. And that is represented by Stan and Mary, which is Stan is Mark Ruffalo. He's played by Mark Ruffalo, and Mary is played by Kristen Dunst. And then there's Patrick and Clementine, and that is Patrick is played by Elijah Wood, and of course Clementine, Kate Winslet. Then there's the love that you had, but caused more harm than good, which is Mary and the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the love that hurt so bad to end that you would do absolutely anything to keep trying and trying over and over again, even though you don't know whether it'll work the second, third, fourth, or fifth fucking time that you get into it. And that, of course, is Joel and Clementine.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about the relationships in this movie?
I think every single relationship, whether it's romantic or personal with Joel and himself or Clementine and herself, I think there's like a running theme, and this is just what I believe, but I think there's just a lot of deception basically with this whole entire mind erasure. Like it's like Joel and Clementine deceive their own minds by getting each other erased from each other's minds, and Howard decepts Mary because she ends up going through the procedure as well, and she's not even aware of it afterwards, and her crush is still there. So she knows what she's feeling, but she's being deceived the entire time. It's really interesting the way it kind of breaks down all different dynamics of a relationship. But yeah, I think like a running theme of that is basically just deception. And Patrick is deceiving Clementine the entire time. I mean, he's probably guilty of it even more so because he's actively doing it constantly. He stole items of Joel's that he brought to help him erase Clementine, and he basically is regifting everything. He's going through his notepad and recreating moments that they have together. It's very, very interesting, and I feel like that's the most pure form of deception in the film, but there's also just so many other ones. And because it is completely, like, as humans, obviously in a situation like this, it's something that we can't do currently. I would like to erase a lot from my mind, but but like we can't do that. But it is totally possible to deceive yourself in life with all of us the way we feel. You could try to convince yourself that you don't feel a certain way, and you could try to like ignoring an issue or ignoring a feeling, ignoring an emotion is deceiving yourself. They're just physically doing it. They're physically getting their own mind erased. So they're deceiving their own heads. Clementine has no idea once it's done. And Joel finds out that she got it done. She has no idea. And we slowly see, because the narrative structure, obviously we might get into it later on more, but the narrative structure is so interesting that we are moving back and forth in time to pre-breakup, after breakup, after realizing, after both of them had gotten the procedure done. And something that is really interesting about after the procedure is done for Clementine is kind of her emotional breakdown, because she knows something's wrong, and she like says she feels like she's crawling out of her skin. She feels like she's going crazy because she changed such a huge aspect of her life in one night. Like there is an entire portion of her life that she's missing. There's a portion of her memories, and now she's slowly getting erased from Joel's at the time that this is happening. And so it's fully getting erased from both of them. And it is very, very interesting.
And I gotta say, what's it called? So a lot of the procedures just kind of be like, oh, we're gonna erase the love of your lives and all this stuff. I don't think this procedure really erases love, and if anything, it's trying to erase desire. But desire can be tamed. Mary cannot help but desire the doctor. She keeps coming back to him, and that's why it's so important when the doctor's wife says, you had him. But even after all these procedures, she still keeps coming back to him, and it's the same thing with Joel and Clementine. Even after the procedure is done, Joel can't help. As much as you want to erase that desire from the head and from the brain, something always brings us back to these people. And sometimes it's a good thing that you want to erase some people that weren't good for you. But there's always going to be something there in our minds that want us to keep going back to said person. It's the reason why you haven't erased that phone number in your number, in your phone, in your cell phone. It's probably why you still have those pictures in your phone and you haven't decided to delete them. There's just something that always kind of brings you back to said person. And I think that that's one of the things that is just absolutely beautifully depicted in here, because each of these persons, it's such a subtle moment in the movie that doesn't really get thought of that much. But that woman, or the person who calls Mary in the office and wants to get the procedure done, but she says you can't get the procedure done 3 times in the month. And I think that's probably one of the most subtle and beautiful moments, because it's like, how bad did this person want the other person and love them so much that they want to get through. They want 3 chances to actually, get them away from their head, but they keep coming out of it, keep snapping out of it, and wanting to come back to that person. And I think it really does talk a lot about our relationships with others, and it's the reason why pre-Valentine's and Valentine's Day in the movie are the busiest times for them.
Yeah, and it's also really interesting because when we are in the doctor's office, we're getting immersed into this world that we don't know because it's not currently real. So when we're in there, we see people with their trophies, like so clearly maybe they lost a child who is maybe like in middle school or high school or something like that. They have a box of trophies and things like that. Another woman has stuff from her dog. And I think a lot of this goes back with the theme of like desire and how you just keep coming back to this person without even realizing it. Mary doesn't realize it, and she still has this crush on Howard. Clementine and Joel find each other again and have basically like a blank slate. I think this goes back to what I was saying kind of about how what I get the most out of this movie, and I think that everything genuinely happens for a reason. And even if you do erase somebody or you do try to, it's just going to happen again. You're going to repeat the past because you didn't learn what you learned the first time you went through it. And that's why I think it really is just a beautiful display of the human condition. I think anybody who watches this is what I get out of it. And maybe that's my own personal connection to it. And maybe other people don't feel that exact same way. But that's the thing about this. It's so multifaceted. We can grab onto so many different things from this movie and feel it whatever way we do. And nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong at all. Every way you feel when you're watching this movie is the correct answer. And so for myself, it definitely does go back to kind of everything happens for a reason. They didn't, by erasing each other, they didn't absorb the kind of life lesson that they might have had to, whether like if they didn't go through with this. If Clementine didn't initially do it, who knows what could have happened. Joel clearly went to go visit her at work and give her a present, and she didn't know he existed. Maybe without all the theatrics and dramatics that Clementine kind of presents throughout this entire movie, without all of that, maybe they could have reconnected in an organic way and not in a meeting for the first time blank slate, even though they've had a full relationship way. And that's the thing. It's like once it's over and once you kind of push something so far down, because for us in real life, it would probably be just like thinking something doesn't exist and ignoring it and forgetting about it. But it's kind of like, it's beautiful to feel all those emotions. I enjoy learning from every single thing that happens to me, whether it's good, whether it's bad. It's all part of the human condition. And I think this movie celebrates that immensely.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds us that, that life isn't one dimensional. It's very complex. Stan can't be with Mary. Mary feels, and I don't buy that it's a crush. Mary loves that doctor. She even admits that she's been in love with him for so long. There is no way that Stan can be with Mary. And then fuck, I forgot. Patrick, I'm sorry. Elijah Wood's character, Patrick. I just watched the movie, right? You shouldn't be forgetting the characters like this, but that's, there is something that doesn't get talked a lot about depression, my friends. Depression fucks with your memory, okay? And what's it called? I'm a firm believer, my friends. Depression fucks with your memory. So yeah, and Patrick can't be with Clementine because Clementine is still being drawn to Joel, but Patrick is also trying to kind of present himself as a version of Joel because he's not comfortable with the person that he is.
And that definitely, all of that goes hand in hand with like the deception. That was something I actually didn't name earlier. Mark Ruffalo's character Stan is 100% also deceiving Mary. We have all these interwoven storylines that are completely different. And he's deceiving her because she had the procedure and he knows it. He knows that she was in love with Howard. And he is continuing on this relationship that is doomed. And all of these romances with the deception, every single one is doomed. We start off the movie by being introduced to Joel and Clementine after the procedure is done on both of them. So it's doomed from the beginning because we're seeing their real relationship prior completely fall apart. And then, and same thing with everybody. With everybody, we're seeing every single person's relationship with themselves, because Mary is also, when she finds out, she's also so confused. I can't even imagine how it would feel to be deceived that strongly. And so yeah, we're watching all of them fall apart. Basically, all of them are having doomed romances. It really is something that is super, super interesting that they were able to interweave all these characters. That's why, like, yeah, like I don't blame you for forgetting Patrick's name. There's a lot of people to take into account in this movie. There's a lot of characters that we care about, every single one of them, even if they're shitty. We feel bad for Patrick, because he feels the need to become Joel, basically, and deceive Clementine in that way, because he doesn't think that she'll love him for the way he is, and that is sad. So all of these people have this sad, doomed romance aspect to them, and we care about each one. It's
because the only time that Patrick is actually showing who he is and what, and you know, Patrick is a creepy little fuck. I'll tell you, who steals a woman's panties, bro? Don't. That's why that was a huge trait in the early 2000s films. A lot that men would steal the panties of the, like, no, that was a weird trope in the movies. But you know, the only time that Patrick really shows who he is around Stan and around Mary, because he knows that Mary doesn't care about him. Mary doesn't like him, so he can be the goofy, cocky, creepy person that he is around Stan. And then with Mary comes around, he can be the annoying person that he is. But once he leaves that room, and once he goes to Clementine, or Tangerine, how he calls her, he changes himself. He's completely a different person, and he's deceiving Clementine to make her think like, you're in love with me because you were in love with Joel, and I'm trying to be Joel.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like you get drawn back to what it is, even though he's going step by step, basically the way Joel was. He's giving her Joel's gifts. He's recreating these entire moments that from her and Joel's relationship. It's just not right. It's not the same thing. It's like what I see from this, because they basically ruin a part of their brain. And I know Howard says it's on par with a night of heavy drinking, so it's not like they're like doing anything completely with like long-term effects, as we know in the film, but they're ruining a part of their brain. And it's kind of like, I always, in real life, no matter what kind of relationship it is, whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, or even like family, I feel like I compare heartbreak to like losing like something like vital and something important and something that you can't replace, basically. And that's what they're all doing to themselves. And so they're physically, we feel it emotionally. Us normal people in the world that we live in today, we feel it emotionally, like we're missing something that's very vital, but they're physically doing it. They're deleting an entire portion. So it's cool to take, it's really interesting how they took this emotional aspect of getting rid of something that was very, very vital to your life and very, very important to you, and changing it into like a physical thing. That's also another thing that I really do believe that like heartbreak and pain and stuff like that, it just takes something out of you for a bit.
Yes, exactly. And I was going to say, and the reason why, that connects so much to me is like, I look at my life at the moment, and, I lost my grandmother, who was the woman who raised me and my brothers. And if you were to, erase that part from my head, that sadness that I feel from that is still a very beautiful feeling. I don't, because even though there is that very minimal part that's sad because of the loss, there's thousands of memories before that were so beautiful, that were so beautiful, things from her picking me up from school, taking me to McDonald's when I was a kid, or, taking care of my brothers when my mom couldn't get here, was coming back from work. It's, all those pieces that make up our memory, they're all beautiful except for this one part where it's like losing that person. And if you were to look at it in a relationship, Joel even says it, like there's like that one memory where, Clementine's like, am I pretty? And she's talking about her issues with her self-image and stuff. And,
Mhm.
Joel was like, I wanted to keep that memory. Like that's, you see, not everything is bad. There's those couple memories that we have with people. There was like, oh, it was some terrible moments, but there's a lot of good there. And those are memories that I don't think we would want to forget.
It really is. It shows the celebration of all these beautiful memories that are part of the human condition, because everything makes us who we are. Every single memory, every single occurrence, no matter how small and how minor it may seem, it all happens, and we shape the way we view ourselves. And I've loved this movie for so long, but I went through a really, really bad breakup 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and this movie also helped me kind of, because I had never had a bad breakup before. I never understood any of that. And this movie and a lot of others, her as well. So I get you with that double feature. That is also one that I do a lot, is her and Eternal Sunshine. But both of those are beautiful because that's the way I see it. I don't see it in a cynical sense. I see it in like, this changed so much of my life in very positive ways, in a few negative ways, but it's like I would never want to get rid of all of it, because there's beautiful things to celebrate. And
Yeah.
that's what makes us human.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, it's what makes us human. Like I said, life isn't complex. We are very complex creatures. We are very fucked up creatures. But us as humans, we're complex in nature. There's a lot of things we don't work a certain way. Like all of us are wired differently. And yeah, I was gonna say, recently, so like usually when I don't want to indulge in my heartbreak and my sadness, and sometimes I recently watched a couple of weeks ago or months ago, Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love, and wow, does that one remind me about how lonely I actually am. And that's enough. If anybody wants to watch In the Mood for Love, and you're like me, who has not been doing well in the dating department for very long, watch In the Mood for Love, and that'll remind you about your loneliness. Maybe pair that one up with Pedro Almodovar's Pain and Glory from last year, and that one, and Dolor y Gloria. That one might just top it too, to remind you how fucking lonely you are.
I have not seen Pain and Glory, but I'm gonna add that to my list to add or to watch like as soon as possible. Now that I have your recommendation, like that highly, of Pain and Glory, I know people had talked about how beautiful it was, and for some reason I just missed out on it last year, and I haven't been able to see it. So I will definitely see if it's on streaming or rent it sometime in the next week. So I'll get back to you on that one.
Not only is it an interesting depiction about loneliness and also what happens when we kind of cage ourselves from the outside world, it's also an interesting a movie about about the LGBTQ community, because Antonio Banderas' character, he was with a lot of women, but the only relationship that he felt ever was so close to him was when he was with a man in that film. And it's probably, and I know I'm throwing out spoilers like that, but it's just, that's such an interesting film. And it's a reminder to us about how lonely we actually are, and how when we cage ourselves from the outside and from the people who actually want to help us out, it reminds us how, little and minuscule we are in the world that we live in. But In the Mood for Love, that's a whole different one, because that's about a couple that, about two married couples who their spouses are cheating with each other. So then the husband of the other marriage and the wife of the other marriage fall in love with each other, but it's more of a forbidden love story. It's like they can't be together. And that's the loneliness that hurts the most, because when all this is said and done, we can never be together.
Yeah,
So,
I love doomed romances in general. So I love so many of them.
I am a sucker for the forbidden love story. That's why I love The Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That's why I love all those movies, because it's just in a way that's kind of portrayed here too. It's as much as we want to play, and as much as we want to what's it called have a love affair when you're a married man with kids. that affair that you're having, it cannot last longer than what it's going to be. At the end of the day, you're going to come back and realize, hey, I'm fucking 50 something years old. I can't be running around with a 20 something year old girl. Like, I have my family, my kids, and it's like, this love on the side, it's just never going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely really something special. And I love to hear that about Pain and Glory, because I've been open about the fact, probably I think it's been like a year basically. I've been open about the fact that I am bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been enjoying so much of these very positive depictions of sexuality
Mm-hmm.
and the spectrum of it that we've seen in the past few years. Like, even something like Booksmart, I know that is nothing like anything that we're talking about right now,
No,
but
if anything,
really,
that's more happy.
Yeah. And so like Booksmart, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, all of those. Portrait of a Lady on Fire was like my number 4 of last year. And it's interesting because there were so many amazing movies that came out last year that it was impossible for me to make my list.
Yeah.
And gosh, so I'm just, obviously coronavirus has kind of halted everything. So I'm really looking forward to seeing everything that's going to come out for the rest of the year. I know there's some really, really great ones. We saw the half of it, which I enjoyed. Obviously that came out about like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. So yeah, there's a lot, but something like Eternal Sunshine still just, I think, is one of the best portrayals of love and of the human condition, because of all the symbolism and all the themes and the degradation of the memories, the way it's depicted in like with the camera work and the imagery. The Meet Me in Montauk scene, I know I've mentioned it already, but with the house collapsing and which is so much. And I know this was something I really, really wanted to do, but a few years ago, they did like, it might've been for the like 12th or 13th anniversary. They had a showing of Eternal Sunshine on the beach in Montauk with beds.
Oh, God, that's an amazing, wish I would be there for that. But
right?
I want to say, Charlie, if you're listening to this, your record's about to be broken. I'm sorry, Sabrina's gonna claim the new record of the longest episode. But when we come back from break, Sabrina and I will be continuing our discussion about Michael Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But please listen to these other ads about the different shows that are on the Nerdcore Podcast Network. So we'll be back, and stay tuned. Hey, I'm Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and this is
Jabril Newton.
And we are the hosts of High Flyer Radio. And finally, pro wrestling has come back to the Nerdcore podcast feed in the form of a show hosted by Jabril and I. And we talk about everything and anything in the pro wrestling world on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Nothing's off limits. Whatever you guys want to talk about, it is from AEW to SmackDown to Raw to NXT. Nothing's off the table. We can talk about it.
We're going to talk all about it. And if you can get it a day early, you should go to the www.patreon.com/thenerdcore and pledge to the tiers on there so you can get this show and a lot of shows days early before anybody else gets to hear it. But enough talking about it. We'll go ahead and see you there at the Squared Circle. Oh, yeah. Don't tap out. Tune in.
Hey, it's Ashley from the Gamer Core. You may remember me from such episodes as Big Screen Mess, Mo Money Mo Platforms, and Brad Can Read. Tune in weekly as I blab with my co-hosts Raul the Nerdy Chicano and Brad the Random Germ about the latest news in gaming and gush over what we're playing at the moment. Oh yeah, and we got the deals too. Keep up with the latest deals in gaming and what's happening as I mediate Brad and Raul fighting like a married couple. Will Death Stranding ever come out? Will Cyberpunk 2077 live up to the hype? Is a next-gen worth a $500 console price tag? And has there ever been a movie adaptation of a video game that's been done right? It's all on the Gamer Core podcast, everywhere where podcasts are.
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, the Nerdy Chicano, and I am the host of The Impaired Files. The Impaired Files is an interview show brought to you every Thursday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And I interview people such as filmmakers, content creators on YouTube, and podcasters like Colton Geschwander. And if you want to listen to that early, a whole week early, all you got to do is go to the Patreon and pledge to the $1 tier. And if you want to listen to it with the general public, then go to the Nerdcore podcast feed on anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. and the case is closed, but it's not classified. See you guys there.
Hey guys, this is Brad, aka Young Yoda. Raul said I had to make an ad, so that's what I'm doing. It's supposed to be for Unstructured, but as you guys know, you can freaking catch me everywhere when it comes to this podcast feed. You can find me on the Nerd Cores, on Gamer Cores, on Nerdy Chicanos sometimes when I get lost. But for this particular one, I want you guys to go check out Unstructured. The Raul gave me free reign to do whatever I want to do. I don't know what he was thinking. So go hear me talk about LeBron James and Taco Tuesday, vaping, so many other freaking weird topics that chimichangas, that's a good one. Shout out to Deadpool. And yeah, I guess this is the end of the ad. So if you guys want to find me, you can find me all over the place on this podcast feed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And nerd up.
Hello, guys and gals, and you're listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore. I am your host, Daniela Nunez, and along with my amazing co-host, Ashley Garcia, we discuss many things like social impact, pop culture, political realms, and any controversy surrounding the Nerdverse. Tune in and listen to us bi-weekly on the Nerdcore podcast feed, and we will love to chat and hear your thoughts on our wonderful show. And thank you again for listening to The Ladies of Nerdcore.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Raul, and I'm one of the hosts of the Nerdy Chicano Show. The Nerdy Chicano Show is a comedic show brought to you by Luis and myself, and it comes to you all every Sunday on the Nerdcore podcast feed. You can catch it a day early by becoming a Patreon and supporting us at the $1 tier. And I don't really know how to explain this show other than it's fun. We get to talk about whatever we want, and it helps you move on in the week. So if you want to catch the Nerdy Chicano Show every Sunday at 8 a.m. All you got to do is go to anchor.fm/thenerdcore, and we'll see you there, baby. Hey, everyone, I'm Raul.
And I'm Brad.
And we're the hosts of the Nerdcore Podcast, the podcast that talks that nerd. Not on this ad, right?
Not
and
on this one.
we come to you every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. On the Mondays, we talk the news. That's the box office, the news of the week, and your trailer talk if there is any. And on Tuesday, we have our theme review. And on Saturday, you have a Saturday morning review, usually movies that have come out in the week or anything we want to talk about. Right, Brett?
Exactly. Whatever we want to talk about, this is our show. If you don't like it, then you don't have to listen.
We're the flagship show of the Nerdcore Podcast feed, and we can be found everywhere you can listen to podcasts like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. So if you want to talk that nerd stuff with us every Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, make sure you tune in. And Brad?
Young Yoda out.
Welcome back. You're back from commercial break. We're here at the Cinema Condition discussing Michael Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I want to thank you all for listening to those ads. As always, you know you can go check out those shows on anchor.fm/thenerdcore. And you guys can go just listen to all those wonderful shows. We only have about 2 shows that are active right now because of the pandemic. I didn't want anybody to force themselves to have to record. So I said, don't worry. Brad and I will, hold down the feed for now. And once the world reaches a new normality, we can go back to pumping out, content like a machine gun. But go and check it out on the Nerdcore podcast feed. And as always, you go leave a rate and review on those for that feed as well on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher and all that wonderful stuff. I have to do this little plug-in. And I'm also going to selfishly plug myself at the end because I did make a new short film. So I get to talk about that at the end. But
Yes.
I'm gonna selfishly plug myself at the end. And I don't care what you guys think about that. But I have to do it. So we're
I
back.
support it.
Yeah, thank you. We're back and we're discussing this movie. So when we finished our conversation, we left off on, most of the deception and stuff like that. And I want to get into a little bit more stuff in here because my notes are, my notes aren't long, but I think the topics I have brought up in here are really packed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a part of this movie that not a lot of people bring up, and that is maybe just me because I am such a big fan of musical scores. Anybody who knows me, and I've sent a lot of voice messages to the meaning of, and the last one I sent was what was your favorite foreign film musical score? And of course, my favorite score of all time is Guiso Petonatore's Cinema Paradiso. It's that
Beautiful.
score from Ennio Morricone is it literally gets you crying the minute you hear that opening note. The minute you hear those piano keys, dun, 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 it's just it gets me bawling. And that's not even my favorite movie of all time. But I can literally not listen to Ennio Morricone's Cinema Paradiso score without absolutely bawling. And yes, I know I sound like a snob pronouncing it in the Italian, what's it called, the title, but hey, I know a little bit of Italian, I'm going to use it. So what doesn't get brought up about this movie is the genius in John Bryan's score.
Yes.
The movie is completely amplified because of Bryan's score. And I was seeing, because Gondry very much uses the mise-en-scene type of approach to filmmaking that is used a lot in theater. You know, a lot of the music is used very well in there because it amplifies those moments where, you know, Clementine and Joel are having those little pauses, but you're hearing the music in the background. It really does amplify those scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is so special. First of all, John Bryan is an incredible musician, incredible performer in all different ways. Live, I was fortunate enough to accidentally see him live. He opened up for John Mulaney at a theater in Los Angeles, like two years ago. Oh, actually, like 3 years ago that I saw John Mulaney. So I was able to see him live. But yes, his score completely elevates the entire film. And the thing about a score is that obviously we do pay attention to scores because we love film and we're so immersed into filmmaking and all the different technical aspects of it. But I think a beautiful score is one that perfectly supplements a film, and you're not fully aware of it. It's just something that's happening to you. It's just, you're just absorbing it, and it's creating this entire atmosphere. It's creating this entire kind of, I hate to use the word, but like vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was it is, and this one is absolutely, I was like, I don't know about that, but
Yeah.
no,
it's fine. It's the word you can use. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I was like, the vibes, guys. It really does supplement this film so well. It complements everything that we're seeing on screen, everything that we're feeling, the entire, what I was saying earlier, from like the physical reaction we get from this film, whether it's just crying or just being physically like upset clearly on the outside from watching this, or even happy in the happier moments, a lot of that also has to do with John Bryan's score. It's so like whimsical and subtle at the same time. I don't know, because I don't want to say whimsical like it's this big kind of feat. It's like a subtle whimsy kind of.
Well,
And
well, yeah, because you have those moments where Joel's going back to his childhood, right? And it has to be whimsical because it reminds us of a time when we're so innocent that it's once again, it's just the genius of this movie. You know, Gondry and Kaufman are doing something amazing here because they're dropping in these very subtle lines that are actually filled with so much profound and prolific sense to it. Like when what's it called? When Jim Carrey's like, you know, I can't believe I want this so bad. Like, you know, when he's a kid and he's like, he wants the attention of his mom. And it's like, it goes back to that intuitive, you know, primal thing about us, that us humans, we crave attention. We crave, we crave love. And when we can't get that, it physically does something to us. It emotionally does something to us. And when you're depicting those moments of childhood, you need to have that whimsy, innocent type of vibe to it.
Definitely. And that's the thing. It's like all the films that John Bryan has been a part of. I mean, he has this understanding. I have a few friends who do scores for films, and you have to have just a deep understanding of like all the emotions going into it. Because even we see when he does something like Lady Bird, it is different from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but it just complements the film so well. There's something so deep into music, and that's why we love it so much, that it brings these feelings, it brings these emotions. That's why we listen to whatever we do. If you're at the gym, you listen to something that's like pump up music, or if you're like me, you still listen to sad music and you cry. Who knows? But
I'm in that club. I'm in that club.
Yeah. But it just brings out this like visceral like sense out of yourself, and so he does that so well with every single film he's done. But yes, it's exceptional for Eternal Sunshine. Even when they're meeting each other on the train for what we think is the first time when you're initially watching the film, it gives you a sense of kind of where this is going, where this is headed. It's like unknowing, and it's kind of like new and fresh and something like profound, and we get all of that from the score as well. You could just listen to the score and you can understand everything that's going on in the scene. I mean, we see it in also something like Her as well, like with that score and with the music involved. And so that's a testament to really, really great understanding of kind of the like all the, I don't know the word, but like in music, just what it can bring out of people, like those visceral feelings and emotions without realizing it. That's what a great score does. It complements the film completely. It brings all those feelings to the forefront. Without a score, I've seen movie scenes without scores, and they still can be great, but a great score elevates it to a level that makes us just constantly want to rewatch that scene over and over again, along with everything beautiful that's happening on screen. What's coming into our ears and being absorbed by like our minds is a lot of that score for sure. It is something else. It is definitely something that's not talked about enough, because it is so great.
And it's not just even the score, but also like there's that moment when the breakup happens and Joel's coming back, and you have a Beck song in the back. And one of the first parts about this movie that actually stood out to me was because they used that song from Beck. I was like, because I'm a fan of Beck. I was like, oh crap, that's Beck. And you just hear everybody's gonna learn sometime, and it's like it's just so beautifully done. And once again, I mean, that is what's it called, Gondry's, work with music videos, knowing when to use those music and that and all that stuff. But Brian's score goes so underappreciated in this. It's beautiful that you bring up Lady Bird, because when I first watched that movie, I bawled too because of Brian's score.
Yeah, it really, and it's like that's what it is supposed to do. Those are the emotions that we're supposed to feel, and we're supposed to absorb everything. So we get all these different, what we're seeing with our eyes, and like what we're hearing with our ears, and like everything. You're getting all the different senses like all at once, and that's why we get this reaction. It really, really is something great, and it makes like I love scores too. And like one of my other favorites of like recent years is like Johan Johansson.
Yeah.
The one he did for The Theory of Everything, I think is something ethereal and magical.
Yeah.
And it, oh my gosh, does that elevate the movie? So it's the same thing with this one. It's just something that you can listen to it and you can feel everything that you're feeling in the movie as well. And yeah, because we talk about a lot on the meaning of all the other, because we have RB3, who's obviously a director, editor, all of that. And then we have Andres, who works in production. And then me, I'm a writer. So we have all these different outlooks. And I've learned so much talking to them about everything, because I've always had like a pretty good knowledge of it. But it goes even deeper when you experience it from people who really, really focus on one technical aspect. And with the friends that I have that do scores, it is so beautiful to focus on all these different things, the editing, the cinematography, so much that goes into everything that we're seeing and makes it successful. The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, it succeeds at doing exactly what it wants to do, because everything in the background, all the technical aspects, everybody who is managing it came together and formed a symbiotic relationship where they knew it's like they all had like one mind, and they clearly worked together. Because you could see from films that we kind of don't celebrate as much, you could see where maybe people had different takes on certain things and it just doesn't work. This is something where it flows so smoothly, even with how like that narrative structure, how it jumps back and forth. I know I've mentioned this already, but the way it jumps back and forth, I know maybe the first time you watch it, the first half of it can maybe be confusing for a second, but once you get to the point that you need to get, you understand it. And then when you watch it later on, it's not confusing at all. You're supposed to be, it's like when we start the film, we are just as confused as Joel and Clementine are
Exactly.
when they're initially meeting each other. And so great art manipulates you. It manipulates your emotions, it manipulates your feelings, it manipulates the way you're perceiving everything. And it does so completely. We are 100% wholly immersed in their experience. So we're feeling the exact same thing that they are. We're starting it and we're a little confused and we're like, what is happening? Because there's something that we're missing as an audience, a piece, when we cut to Joel crying in the car and we're like, what happened? Like, what is going on here? What friggin' happened? And it is something so beautiful that we get to be immersed in these worlds, in these stories, and in these characters. It just, and it is compliments to everything that happens technically behind the scenes.
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting because, you know, like the score will kind of sneak up on you in here sometimes. And
Yeah.
you'll be like, crap, why do I feel like a sudden urge to want to, like, you know, cry a bit? And you're like, oh, well, Brian's score's in there. And it's the same thing when so in this with the Cinema Paradiso score, there's when the theater is burning down in that film, that score, when I'm listening to it, there's always that song that comes up when the theater's burning, and I'm like suddenly really anxious, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I feeling so anxious? And I'll be in my room just listening to it. I'm like, oh great, yeah, it's that song that plays when the theater's burning. So I'm just picturing a little kid trying to bring down a heavy old man from the projection booth. So yeah, it's just it's what sadly not a lot of people bring up Brian's score, and I wanted to bring it up in here because it does really amplify it. You know, like you said, and this is what I always tell everybody when I'm shooting something, what we're about to make here is a team effort. And there's movies that truly show when everybody was working in sync with each other. And that's what we get here with the score. And the score worked so well with the cinematography and the direction.
100%. It really, really did. And another, just to name something that blew me away by the score and the sound design and everything was Uncut Gems. Obviously, Safdies do an incredible job. Their entire team, everything that they do, they have two, like, I guess kind of mainstream films, and obviously they have Heaven Knows What, that is like lesser known, underrated, but still really great. But with their two more mainstream films with like big name actors, they have cemented themselves as just filmmakers who have a deep understanding of everything that goes to be involved with filmmaking. And I know they have a heavy hand in a lot of the technical aspects. And it's cool to see a situation where people all have Eternal Sunshine, where they have different roles. I know one of the Safdie brothers helps mix and do the sound design and do all of that kind of stuff, and the score as well. And so it's cool to see John Bryan, Gondry, Kaufman, all of them coming together completely, like three different people, three different minds, but having such a deep understanding into what this film is.
Yep. I 100% agree with you. I can't really say more out of that, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and yeah, it's just it's amazing. I mean, I really I'm at loss for words already. I really can't say much that wasn't already said about this score. It's what truly elevates the movie and the scenes in it. But yeah, so I have a couple of stuff left in here. I know that we kind of we talked about a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm telling you guys, this is gonna be the longest episode, and I'm sorry. But this is what's this probably should have been the season finale for this show. But no, you guys have to wait 10 more episodes for that one. And yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about you know, it's something that I brought up first, and that I brought up first in my head during this rewatch. There seems to be an odd play between ethics and desire in this movie. So, you know, Stan does mention, like, you know, Patrick shouldn't be seeing Clementine because it's unethical. But somehow Patrick still goes for it. And, you know, Mary shouldn't be seeing the doctor because it also is unethical. I mean, it does make a conflict of interest. But somehow we still have these moments where we cannot tame that desire for said person. And it's one, you know, and I keep bringing this up a lot. I be bringing up desire a lot, but as people who know me, one of the parts of that I kind of focus on in my scripts and such are about relationships, about sexuality, and about, you know, the role that it plays in which we navigate this world. And part of that is in here in this movie with the way that some of these characters initially desire these other characters.
Yeah, I really do think that this also shows that kind of gray area in morality and, you know, like the difference between right and wrong and good and bad and what you should do, what you want to do, and what you shouldn't, and how there is that gray area where it's like, if you really want something, like you said, if you desire something so deeply, you might do what, like, we as humans know that. Hello, we've all of us have done things in the past that maybe weren't the right thing to do, but we thought it would serve us. We thought it would get us to a certain place. Whether it is getting the love of your life, whether you have a huge crush on somebody, anything like that. And yeah, this movie really does focus on that gray area, because even with Mark Ruffalo's character Stan, the scene where Patrick's like, yeah, I stole her panties, and then at first he's like, oh, you can't steal her panties, and then they laugh about it like he was joking the whole time. And we don't, in the same way I talked about before, we are, because of our life experiences, even if you haven't experienced something exactly like that before, like doing what Patrick does so he can get Clementine, the way the film is presented, we have an understanding of why they're doing it. We might not agree. It's another thing, because there's no villain, there's no person you're not rooting for in this movie. There's no person that's like doing something like where you hate them, even if, because we don't love Patrick, but we understand what he's doing, and that makes emotionally rich, relatable, deep characters. Another thing I talk about a lot is like a good villain in a film, and a villain, even if you don't agree with what they're doing, you get an understanding of why they're doing it. And that's something why Killmonger or Thanos are two really great examples of the best MCU villains that we've ever had, because we, even though we don't agree, we understand why they're doing it. And if it's something like that, we see all these characters, because I think each person has something kind of like a negative trait about them, the way humans do. They all have something negative kind of going for them. Nobody's fully innocent. Howard is letting Mary, like, still working with Mary even after everything they did. Like, maybe in a sense, like, he's wrong in that sense. He probably should know that he should keep his distance from her. And so it's almost like everybody's setting themselves up for failure, like we said before. And that's the same thing too, Patrick, even though obviously I do not agree with anything that he's doing, we understand why he's doing it, because of that desire for Clementine. And so it really goes into that morality. Again, like I said, there is so many different things to piece out of this film that you can gain from it. And in a story like this, with characters like this, with like interwoven little arcs and just things like that, I feel like we really get that resolution at the end of the film, even though, because I am actually a big fan of ambiguous endings. I know a lot of people aren't. And so I get it, because everything is subjective. But I love the ambiguous ending we kind of have. We have a resolution for Mary's entire character. She has that. She realized what has been happening basically this entire time, what had happened to her. And she's sending out those tapes, and she's going to show a lot of people in New York, in maybe the greater area, whoever has come to the doctor who she sent the tapes to. She's showing them all what happened. And maybe that's not the right thing to do. Maybe maybe it is. It's like, we can't fully judge what is right and wrong. I understand why she's doing it, because she doesn't want other people to be deceived the same way she was, even though they all willingly did it. It is, you're missing a part of yourself. And so we have that resolution even with Joel and Clementine. And it is a heartbreaking, tender moment between the two of them, where they realize what has happened. They listen to their own tapes. They see what they've said about each other. They realize they were in a relationship before. And we get that kind of like okay ending. It's like, who knows what will happen from there, but their stories are semi-resolved for the story that we're diving into, which is their romance. It has some kind of resolve. It's like, we don't know as an audience where they're going to go forward. You can kind of decide for yourself whichever way you want to think, like what's going to happen from going on forward. But I really do believe that it is a beautiful ending, and it's resolved in a really nice way. And it kind of also sticks with that morality of all the characters, because there are so many of them, and there's so many stories that are slightly interwoven into this one, even though the focus is Joel and Clementine.
And it's really interesting that you bring up that, that gray area, because, even though Howard says like, oh, it was just one time thing, like it was like, no, dude, like you were undressing each other. You were ready to have sex with her again.
Yeah.
You were ready to go through this all again, because deep down in there, as much as you want to have these people, erase these parts of your brain, at the end of it, we cannot tame desire. And it messes with the way that we approach, especially the procedure. And, like we said, like, even though we don't agree with what Patrick is doing because it is unethical, you understand, because, you want to just chase that person. You want to. And at the end of the day, it is a primal thing for us to want to go after the person that we feel we want to court. So it's just, it's basic human nature, and that's what it kind of comes down to. So I want to, I think the final thing we can finally get to it, and you teased it right here, I do want to talk about that ending. I myself am a huge fan of the ambiguous endings as well. There's a reason why I love Alfred Hitchcock, guys, but there is something about his movies. His movies end. Literally, they end. That's it. Nothing else happens after that ending. It literally ends. And as much as I love and respect Hitchcock, those endings are sometimes not the best things for me. I don't like them that much.
Yeah.
But with this, you have that kind of ambiguous, like, excuse me, sorry. Do not want to burp into the microphone. For those of you who listen to the main show, that means you take a shot. Because every time I say that on the main show, you have to take a shot. So,
all right. Now I got to go get my vodka.
But there is an ambiguous kind of sense to it. I think that Joel and Clementine are willing to, subside the hurt that is going to come again. And maybe it'll work the second time, or maybe it'll work the third time, but it's worth going through it again. It's worth trying to find something to fix what was wrong the first or second time.
100%. And yeah, it really does deal with that. Everything happens for a reason. They erase it, but they had meant so much to each other. They had changed each other in so many ways that they don't understand. And again, like, heartbreak is losing a piece of something that is so familiar and it is there and is prevalent in your life. And there's nothing you can do to get rid of it, because you will be losing that piece forever until something like this, when they're able to reconnect. They met in Montauk. And another really great thing, oh my gosh, that is, I am just thinking about it and just talking about this movie, because last time I saw it was a few weeks ago, but I've seen it so many times. Yeah. So those performances from every single person, they just drive this film home. Yeah. Every single actor, even Elijah Wood. I mean, it's another. Yeah. We get that. We get everything we're supposed to feel about Patrick. We get it from him. But the reason why the ending works as well as it does, again, for people who like ambiguous endings, or maybe for people who don't but can respect this ending, is because of their performances. They genuinely they are just so okay. Jim Carrey, he is something else when he's doing a role like this. He's very talented in everything that he does, but something like this is just, it is one of those, the way I see it is like once in a lifetime kind of performances, because it's not something that we get out of him often. Kate Winslet completely does stuff in the similar vein as this and in all different aspects, and she just continually knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
But this is something from a guy who like has always been like comedic, and we get elements of that within the film, and that also works because it also makes him human. It makes her human because Kate can knock out anything. But the fact that he is able with his eyes to convey everything that he does and give such a great performance. Same thing with her, but of course, like Kate Winslet is just amazing in everything. I can't even say, it's like I'm literally speechless because there's nothing I could say about these two performances and everybody else in the film besides that the fact that they are flawless. Performance wise, nobody can complain about their acting in this film. It is something else, and it helps wrap it up because the way they look at each other, the way that final scene, it is so deeply moving. It really, really is. And we, again, with the score and everything, we feel their resolution that is still very confused. It is very muddled. They have no idea where they're going to go going forward. They're like, okay, all right, well, let's see. This movie is completely, I mean, we have celebrated all the different aspects of this film. Yeah. So I can't even say the performances drive this movie because everything drives this film. This film has everything going for it in all different technical aspects, every which way imaginable. But again, if there wasn't great performances, even with everything else behind the scenes working out, we wouldn't get that same experience that we do with this film. And so I have to give a quick shout out to those or I guess a long shout out because I just rambled on, but a long shout out to how great they are, and still to this day, two of my favorite performances in film ever.
Yeah, it is Jim Carrey's best performance, hands freaking down. And if you guys do want to learn more about the way that Carrey works, I really, really recommend Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond on Netflix. That documentary is a crazy descent into how the mind of Jim Carrey works when he's taking on these roles. And it's true because I look at this movie and you see how damn depressed Joel is, and you're like, God, Carrey is absolutely hitting it out of the park with this. It's beautiful what he's doing with this. And Kate Winslet too is just like, even those little moments, like when she's so sporadic, or just, those simple moments of her checking her ass in the mirror to see the bruise, and she's like, it's just so believable. It's so believable. It's like, exactly, that's how that person would react. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see it just so well performed like that. So that ending to me, it's beautiful. It's a very comforting ending. It's not the happy, go off into the sunset, we're gonna get married and stuff. No, it's not. It's the actual approach that is life. It's sometimes things will not work, and it's gonna do us better because of it, because everything does happen for a reason, and we might want to try at it again. And there's and I feel like us as us in life, we have listened to people constantly saying like, oh, if it didn't work 1 or 2 times, why are you going to try it the 3rd time? But unless the relationship was a terrible relationship or it was abusive and such, like, yeah, it's best to not get back into that. But like, if it was worth trying again, it's worth trying again.
Yeah, and that's another thing, is that the only two people who understand what happens and how to move going forward are the two people in the relationship. So in this case, Clementine and Joel. If they decide to go forward with that, it is completely on them, because they're the only people that understand their relationship the way that they do. We got a glimpse into their relationship as an audience, but which I guess in the ending too, they also get a glimpse into their own past relationship because they don't remember it. They just have the tapes. But if they could see that and they could think that it's worth trying again, and then go for it. I think both of them as characters complement each other so well. We have Joel, who is more reserved. He seems to just be like, more reserved, more serious. And we have Clementine, who is pretty manic. I mean, she is classified, which I disagree with this, because I think the term manic pixie dream girl is not great. But people see her sometimes as a manic pixie dream girl who kind of takes this more serious man and brings him happiness. So in that sense, yes, I get the term used for her, but she explains it herself in the film. She's like, I'm not a concept. I'm fucked up, and I'm just a fucked up girl looking for my own peace of mind. Like, don't assign me yours. So she literally knocks down the entire concept of a manic pixie dream girl in her dialogue in the movie, and people still decide to call her a manic pixie dream girl sometimes, which is absolutely insane, but whatever. Yeah. But it's something about the two of them, how different they are and how well they complement each other, because someone like him, and I know we're analyzing this as two audience members of the film, but someone like him, she elevates his life. She brings this like vibrancy, which is literally shown in her hair. Her hair is so vibrant, and it's used as a really great tool to kind of understand their relationship and understand the timeline of the film even. So we get that vibrancy, literally her outfits and her hair and her style and her way of going about life is that vibrancy that maybe he lacks, because in the scenes with him, he has very, very like muted colors. He's very plain, and that's not a bad thing at all. But sometimes people can bring something out of you, and he probably grounds her a little bit and gives her some of that levity, which we see in some of the scenes. And so their relationship is something that I think it's just a beautiful display of genuine, like, just love for a person. And so from the two performances, from the characters, the way they're fleshed out within the film, the way we see them grow and change and evolve, which is shown literally symbolically in Clementine's hair, I think that ending wraps it up just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you that you know, her vibrancy complements him, and you see it. That first drawing he does of the bus with her in there, and you look at the drawings after their relationship, his art improves like differently. It takes on a different style, and it once again that is once again a symbol of how we kind of change with the people that we are in relationships with and stuff like that. But yeah, look, we've really gone through this whole movie. We got to the we really did get to the end of it. We kind of just dug. But this is what this show is about. It's this like this is about a long form over analysis of this movie. And yeah, I wanted to ask if there was anything else that you wanted to bring up that we didn't get to bring up, because I forgot to talk about the visuals when they're in the dreams and how the faces have the faces would have no eyes and stuff, and that 100% that is surrealism. Those are David Lynch type of images, and it reminds me a lot of Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive and all those films. And you know, it's incredible the way that Gondry kind of stylizes it by taking those surrealist aspects. You know, other names I could drop, like Maya Deren, you know, some of those visuals too. But yeah, it's just beautiful, those visuals, and it is very scary. Yeah, but I think it's just once again a reminder how scary it is to be locked inside our own minds.
100%, and that's the thing. It's like they're locked inside their mind. He's asleep. He's going through all these memories, and he's seeing the degradation of these memories, and we are too. And it brings out that horror of what he's doing to himself and what he's doing to his relationship with Clementine and everything. And oh my gosh, just to think about maybe like what she was going through when it was happening, because we're watching obviously from Joel's perspective, but she went first. She made that first decision. And I can guarantee you that she was going through a similar thing where she was like, I regret this. Because if you push something aside, that's why we're seeing it in a horrific way as it's happening, because they're degrading their own mind. Like, it's literally a degradation of their memories and their relationship, everything crumbling. Like we see it when they're in his memory with like the embarrassing one where he's a child and there's like the bird, and we see the house slowly decaying, his childhood home, and just decaying in front of our eyes in that beautiful, beautiful scene. And then same thing with the Meet Me in Montauk, the way everything's crumbling when it's raining inside his apartment, when they're just sitting there. There's just so much it really, that is something that is so beautiful. And the thing about this film is that I think anybody who has seen it a bunch of times and has kind of really gotten into deep thought about it, because there's a lot it's presenting to the table, can have a discussion, because it is just something else. There's so much to celebrate. There's so much to love. There's so much to talk about and debate on, you know, because someone might feel differently than I do about the whole like morality thing and think Elijah Wood is a huge douchebag, which like I don't disagree. But with me saying that I understand and I connect and things like that. So there's just the thing I love most about film and about podcasts like yours or like The Meaning Of or anything like that is the fact that we can have these kind of discussions, because art is subjective and there's just so much to celebrate and so much to either love or dislike sometimes. And it's like the passion behind all of this, the passion of the people working behind the scenes to create this piece of art that we're celebrating 16 years later, and I'll continue to celebrate for the rest of my life. And yeah.
But that is the beauty of cinema, my friends. I mean, that is the beauty of it. What you might think is the message of the movie is very different. It is why I once again I voiced my love of Gaspar Noé and his films, because I think that they are genius movies that are overlooked and people kind of just take it for the surface. Yes, love, and I've discussed this, love can be seen as pornography. It's not pornography. Love, because pornography is just the act. Love, his movie, there's a story to it. The sex isn't there because it's senseless. It's heightened by the story that we are in there, that we are seeing in there. And it's just, it's even, you know, his recent movie Climax, I loved Climax. People think that there's not a story in there. There is a story. There's a big story in there. And of course, that was the first episode we did here. And you guys can go listen to that, because there's a big story about, you know, how people can sometimes act like, okay, we're teammates, but then once we're not together, we talk shit about each other and how we actually don't like each other and stuff. So it's just, that's the beauty of the world that is cinema. And it's what makes it such a great place to work with. And that is why I had so much fun discussing this movie with you. But we have reached the end of it. And that is our long, really long conversation. But we're almost done here, because there's a lot more to discuss. There's a lot more to do, because now we transfer onto the hot seat, my friend. Oh my God. So, Sabrina, our conversation was amazing. But I had a blast. Oh God, you're definitely getting bumped up to 2 slots, maybe even 3 next season. So, yes. Yeah, you might just get the 3 slots. I only gave 3 to 4 slots to certain people, and there were people who I could hold it down with. Dude, you held it down more than I expected. So I feel like you and I could just host the show ourselves there, because I already knew you were amazing, but Jesus Christ, were you on the ball today? So Sabrina, every guest on the Cinema Condition has to recommend one movie, and also you get your chance to call dibs on one movie for season 2, which will be returning, my friends. We will be returning for season 2 in December, and then we'll see where we end after that. But what is the one movie you recommend people go watch, other than this movie, of course?
Yeah, I have so many movies I want to recommend, but something that had just come out and has hit me in a way that a movie hasn't hit me in a while, in a lot of different aspects, and I could briefly talk about it, is The King of Staten Island with Pete Davidson, Judd Apatow's film. I think it is the most beautiful portrayal of kind of like grief, mental illness, trauma that I've seen in a long time, and I think a lot of people can relate to in a lot of different ways. And they deal with this in such a humorous, relatable way with their, I'm a huge fan of dark humor. And so I think anybody who is also a fan of like dark humor, things like that, can find something out of this film to enjoy for sure. I think it is really, really stunning, and I understand the main character so much, and it just like this movie was another one that I just watched. I've seen it 3 times, and it just came out on a few days ago. So this is oh my gosh, I could watch it over and over. And I could watch it right now if I wanted to, or well, I do want to if I had time. And so yeah, I highly, highly recommend The King of Staten Island.
Hmm. No, I need to watch that soon. I did see your
Yes.
tweets and I was like, oh crap. It made me really want to look forward to the review you're gonna do soon. So I can't
Mhm.
wait to watch it, and because I'm a big fan of Apatow. I think Apatow is one of the only people who can actually make me laugh,
Yeah.
which is surprising because a lot of people think I don't watch comedies. But yeah, I'm a big fan of what's it called, Apatow's work. So I can't wait to
It's
see that
int-
movie.
Yeah, it's interesting also because I think Apatow is very special in the way he kind of dissects relationships within his comedies.
Hmm.
We have something like Trainwreck, which like not everybody has to love the movie. I actually put in my top 10 of the last decade, which is insane.
Yeah, I
I had to
remember.
put it in there.
Mhm.
Yeah. I had to put it in there because he dissects so like familial relationships, personal relationships, Amy Schumer with herself in the film, her sister, her relationship with Bill Hader, and that's the same thing he does in this film. I don't want to spoil anything at all,
Mhm.
so I'm leaving that up to you guys to watch, but he does a very similar thing in this one where he's just dissecting personal relationships in a very vulnerable and authentic way. It's something special.
All right, and now, who are you about to disappoint, Sabrina? Who are you about to piss off because you claimed a movie before they claimed it? What is your pick for season 2 of the Cinema Condition?
My pick, it was always at the front of my mind. This is one of my favorite underrated movies of the last decade. It made it onto my top 10. I picked Short Term 12.
Oh, I just pissed off somebody for sure. Dude, you
Yeah.
just pissed off somebody I know bad. Oh, I love that movie. I love that movie.
Oh,
But
it
holy
is
crap,
something
I
else.
am sure you're going to piss off my co-host. He loved that movie.
Wait, doesn't he also like Eternal Sunshine?
Yeah, so you pissed him off
Oh
twice
my
now.
gosh.
But he was really happy that I was able to get you on the show because he also likes what's it called, you guys over there at First Cut. So
Thank you. What's his name? Your
Brad,
co-host?
Brad,
Brad, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Again.
Again, I'm sorry. No, he actually has the biggest hate right now for somebody. He was this guy was a host for our anime podcast that they did a while ago, like a long time ago. That person chose Akira for the show
Oh.
as well, and Brad got mad. Like he was like, dude, I really wanted to do that movie. Like, and he literally asked me to get that movie like an hour before the other guy had claimed it already. And I was like, dude, I'm really sorry. Akira's already claimed by Alex.
Oh.
So
yeah,
he got
I'm
mad.
sorry, Brad, that we keep doing this to you.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's all good. I can't wait to bring back Sabrina next season for Short Term 12, and then what other 2 movies you probably want to do. But that's what I will be contacting her later on after we're done in August. I'll have to contact people about like, hey, what are the other movies you're gonna want to do? So expect more annoying messages from me, Sabrina, in 2 months. But
Oh no, hopefully life will be a lot easier by then, so I will be waiting for that message.
yeah, of course. And I did promise this myself to selfishly plug myself. My friends, I had been planning a Western shoot with one of my best friends, and basically I kind of inspired it with the because I do photography, I do film photography, and I do digital. When I say film, I literally mean 35 millimeter analog film. It's like I do that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm very, very into photography. I had been planning a shoot to do for a Western with my best friend that is very inspired by the old 60s Westerns movies, but also something that was very prevalent in the 60s with Hollywood is that, not a lot of the cowboy movies actually focused on the real first cowboys. For those of you who may think that the first cowboys were white, they were not. They were black and brown people, especially here in the borderlands. They were brown folk. They were Latinos who were the first cowboys and the first rancheros. And I decided to do a photo shoot. So with that, I decided to make a short film. And that is why I'm asking you guys to go and watch In Search of the Outlaw. It's a short film that I got to direct, and I wrote and I shot it and I edited it as well with my best friend. And you guys can go look at that on my YouTube channel. But also you can go to The Nerdy Chicano on Instagram, and it'll be there on my IGTV. I put it up there. I didn't want to link it because right now it's more important that I have the the information for Black Lives Matter linked in my bio. But if you go to my Instagram, you are going to be able to watch it right there, and you go and check that out. And also you get to check out the Western photos that we took. And I got to say, this has been some of the best work I've done with the camera as of late. So, I usually don't like to toot my own horn because I think I'm a pretty average photographer, but the photos I got in this were pretty damn good. So,
oh my gosh, I will definitely check it out.
yeah, especially if you really like, what's it called, moody 35 millimeter photos. What's it called? I've got the content for that. But for sure. But the Western style photos that we took were incredible, and I loved every minute working with my best friend Luis. So guys, go and check out that at the Nerdy Chicano on Instagram, please, and or the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. You know where you can find that. Just search up Raul Alejandro Mendoza, and I'll there's gonna be a whole lot of Mexican dudes that pop up, but I'm gonna be right there. You're gonna see me. You're gonna know who it is. So go and do that. And Sabrina, where can they find you on the internet and all that stuff?
Yeah, so a few places. Of course, on the YouTube channel First Cut, I do the Meaning of Podcast with Andres and RB3, like we've kind of talked about throughout this episode. I do Castings and Cocktails with Ben Goddard every Monday. So we just plan a cocktail and we recast the movie and just kind of have fun. It was something that started since quarantine to get us doing something else since we've lost a few of our gigs during this time. So we do that one. I write for Geeks of Color, so do RB3 and Andres. So definitely check out the things that we do because we are in collaboration with our First Cut channel with Geeks of Color. We recently put out the Meaning of Podcast episode with Josh Trank, which was a lot of fun. It was the first time we ever had a director on doing their own episode going along with us. And Josh is incredible and candid and so open. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I'm a Schmodown competitor, so support me, guys. And I'm on SEN once the world goes back to normals. And Instagram and Twitter at Sabrina X Monica, like I said before.
Awesome. I want to say, what's it called? Casting and cocktails is a lot of fun, especially as somebody who's been sober for like the last 3 years. And I have to keep it that way. I was like, well, it's fun to see these people drink and not me be the one, but I like to hear the casting that happens. And there we go. My accent slips out. But yeah, the casting, it's nice to see it go on. But yeah, it's quite the show to see when you've been sober for like 3 years.
Yeah, I'm a lightweight. So literally 15 minutes into the episode, I'm like, woo!
Yeah, but please go and check out Sabrina. Please support her. She's an amazing writer. A lot of her articles I love reading. I remember specifically the interview you did with the costume designer from Little Women. I loved that article. Yeah. That was so well written. It was so well written.